One listener says, keep me anonymous. My son is 4 years old and just started preschool. All right. I've already gotten a note from the teacher. In fact, 2 incident reports for him stealing food, snacks from other kids. I don't understand that he doesn't have any siblings. I'm trying to teach him, but he's 4 years old. My big problem is the teacher, who is 21, wrote that he was stealing food and then threw it on the floor, and she spelled through Through, and it's driving the mom wild. Apparently she's written the word through twice.
Deflection from the problem, though.
Biggie, can you spot the problem with this sentence?
There's too much of that. There's too much.
If I was the teacher, I'd say, well, yes, I used the wrong through, okay? But you're deflecting from the problem. Your son's a thief.
Yeah, but the teacher used through twice improperly, and she's a teacher of children.
Yeah, but they're not learning spelling at age 4, right?
No, and she's a preschool teacher.
Yeah, but
I will cut tiny slack for that.
Mm-hmm.
They really more are just hurting these small children.
Exactly.
Even still, as an educator,
Loose
educator, you should know how to spell the word through.
Well, one should.
You should know that. I for instance, one time when my son, we were trying to choose a school. We were going to a couple of private schools, and we took a tour of one, and the principal was giving us a tour, and we were touring like the 5th grade classroom, and the word Seattle was written on the whiteboard because they were studying some sort of geography, and Seattle was spelled incorrectly. And one of the parents said to the principal, the teacher spelled Seattle wrong. And the principal was like, oh, yes. And she goes, she did. She spelled Seattle wrong. I don't want my son going to a school where the teacher can't spell the word Seattle. But the principal had to deflect a little bit. A
little bit.
Yeah, because, and I don't think I cut that as much slack either when the misspellings from the teacher. I feel like the teacher should know these things.
Yeah, but I think now, it's just going to drive you nuts.
Of course, I know that.
Yeah,
I know that.
The spelling,
of course,
all that has just gone.
I don't care.
Yeah,
but that's what in elementary school. That's what you're teaching. You're teaching spelling. I would think. I guess that's still what they teach: spelling and grammar and basic math. In grades, kindergarten through 6, at least, you're trying to teach those kinds of things. My wife is teaching right now. She just started teaching a math class and a psychology class to high school students. These are 9th, 10th grade, okay? And this will interest you, too. The class for one of them, I believe it's the math class, starts at 12:15. It's either 12:15 or 12:30. And it's a little bit specialized.
How long does it run?
It's an hour, 50 minutes, I think. But my wife said it's a little special. I forget which class it is, but most of the kids get out of lunch at 12:30, but her classroom in particular has to leave at 12:15 to make the class, which was odd to me. It's like, okay, you get 15 minutes less lunchtime to come to that particular class.
Yeah.
But it's a psychology class, I think, so it's some sort of like a specialty class. Anyhow, my wife majored in psychology. She's a
woman of science.
She's a published woman. She's published. She got published a book. I mean, she's published in a book. In a book of psychology.
Does that bother you?
Yes, and she brings it up from time to time. She'll say, "I'm published." And I'll say, "Okay."
Published this.
But she was referenced in that book about the true crime, right? The Murdoch case.
Oh yeah, she was referenced in the Murdoch case.
I don't think that counts as being published.
No, but she got published years ago.
Yeah. Something she had written.
Yeah, she wrote a paper that got published in a book of psychology.
Okay.
And she said, you never know when that's going to pop up, by the way. They can use that anytime they want. She said, I might be reading sometime and read my own work. She just told me that the other day.
I'm sorry. I need to stifle my laughter.
Well, I do too, because she got on to me for it.
Uh-huh.
And you're right.
Have you ever looked it up? Does she have a copy?
No, I'm sure she does. I need to read her paper. I mean, she took a long time. And her master's thesis, that's what it was. She got her master's in psychology. And now she's putting it to use because they've created this psychology class for these high school students, and she's the teacher of it, which I'm proud of her. They're doing this.
We can tell.
I'm so proud to be married to this woman.
Absolutely.
I scream it from the rooftop all the time, My gosh, look at what she's doing. And she's published, and yes, she's in the transcript of the Murdoch
The
trial.
transcript, yes.
Remember, they were saying, who's this loon that's on the third row of the Murdoch trial?
Here every day.
Who's talking to the dirty clerk?
Remember, she was talking to the dirty clerk.
Oh, that dirty clerk she might single-handedly get him a new trial.
The dirty clerk let my wife and my wife's cousin in a side door, and my wife is like, "Are you sure you're supposed to be doing this?" And the dirty clerk is like, "Oh yeah, I run this place. Get on in here." And
Come on, honey.
And then she'd whisper as they went through, he's guilty of sin. She is, and unfortunately, she told the jurors that he's guilty of sin. Y'all don't have to take long on this. And now Biggie's right. They're opening it up again.
Yeah.
I thought I keep seeing that story.
Yeah.
A possible new trial for Murdoch. Maybe. Will my wife have enough time to cover this while she's teaching these classes?
Yeah.
Right now, we're all over the Lacey Peterson. There's a couple of documentaries out.
I've seen that. It's which is odd. It's his side.
Yes. She recently watched one. Lacey Peterson was killed by her husband, Scott Peterson, in 2002 or 3 while pregnant. Big story. Similar to Gone Girl with Ben Affleck. I think the book was almost modeled after that. Twist on that book, though. But so I watched the one last week. I was sitting on the couch, sort of half taking it in. And I said to my wife, it's so obvious to me that Scott Peterson is guilty. And now she's watching the one that's his side. And I waffle so much. I'm like, well, maybe. Who knows?
Now, these are documentaries, right?
These are
scripted.
documentaries.
Yeah, okay.
One was from it was a British thing. No, I'm wrong about that. There are two of them, and I think they're on Netflix.
One's on Peacock.
Okay. And she's watching now the one on his side, and all I hear every 5 minutes, like somebody will say something, and she'll go, "Oh yeah, right, sell that somewhere
Out loud in the room."
Yeah, she doesn't believe him at all. She thinks he's guilty, and his sister or sister-in-law, somebody is very much on his side. And every time she speaks, my wife will say, "You need to pipe down, sister. This guy needs to be under the jail." And then, they have old footage of those famous lawyers like Mark Garagos. And she's like, "Pipe down. You don't know what you're talking about."
And you're like, well.
And I'm like, maybe.
Let's hope her students don't see this.
Right.
This side of her.
Okay.
2 Chardonnays in, yelling at the TV.
She does.
Pipe down, Garagos.
And boy, after she's been on her feet all day on her teacher feet, and she comes home and pours a shard and watches some true crime, you better believe she's letting it fly.
Yeah.
So
It's unfiltered.
That's right. So yesterday she was telling me that the class starts at 12:15 or 12:30, and again, the students get out of lunch at a different time than everybody else. So the class has met twice so far, and one girl in particular has come in about 15 minutes early both times and just sat in the class. Now, my wife is preparing notes and writing on the board and stuff, and she's just sat in the class, and she said, and they're all early, but one girl in particular is way early. So the second time she did it, she said, "Why are you so early?" And the girl said, "Well, they took our phones away." And my wife said, "Yeah, I understand." Because now every morning they have to put their phones in one of those lock bags,
Every student.
Every student.
okay.
You can't have it. Can't have the phone until the end of the day. So she goes, "Well, they took our phones away. We can't have them anymore." And my wife said, "What does that have to do with you being early?" And she goes, "I can't read an analog clock.
I don't know what time it is.
I don't know what time it is."
Don't know what time it is.
She says, "I don't know what time it is. So when I start seeing people put up their trays and stuff, I figure, well, I might as well wander over to the class." That's how she does it.
Wow.
She literally said, "I can't read an analog clock." And my wife says she's very bright. And she said, "Well, do you want me to sort of go over how to read an analog clock?" She goes, "Well, I've been taught years ago, when I was young, but I don't remember it." And she goes, "I'm embarrassed by it, of course, but I think my whole life is just going to be, I'm not going to be able to read an analog clock. So I'm just going to be early if you don't mind."
That's just the way it is now?
It's just the way it is. Right. And
Bruce Hornsby.
Yeah.
that's just the way
There
it
goes
is.
the heartwarming movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This teacher taught me when the big hand is on
At age
the 8
at age 16.
and the little hand is on the 3.
They can't read an analog clock.
I don't know what the clock is. Let me teach you.
So she's
One
early.
student who was always early.
And
It's so much for Helen Keller, the miracle
right,
worker part 2.
right. And my wife said, "Well, at least she's not late." I said, "No." And she said, "I'm going to be early every day. I'm going to always be
my
early."
gosh.
A heartwarming story about time and understanding.
That's what
You were my big hand all the time.
Yeah.
they'll call it. It's About Time.
Yeah.
That'll be the name of the movie.
From Ron Howard.
I thought you were going to say she sat in the class because she had nothing to eat.
No, she
This is
eats.
dumber.
Yeah.
She eats. And I said,
And
"Are you?"
sadder.
I couldn't believe
It's
it.
even sadder than skipping lunch.
Right. And my wife said, she's really bright. She's a great and fun and funny and personable, and I like talking to her. But she just said, "I'm always going to be early."
Here's a question about in the modern world. If I understand students, I know plenty of places don't let you bring phones in. Sometimes schools, sometimes concerts, what have you.
Yeah.
What about an Apple Watch?
She could have that. She could have that, but she does. That's a good point. She should have that. She should have her parents buy her maybe for Christmas an Apple Watch, so second semester she can be on time.
I wonder if they're not even allowing those though.
You
don't think?
It's like it's a phone on your wrist.
Surely they do, though. I mean, that is
they're everywhere.
And don't you have to have the phone fairly near you or is that no longer a thing?
No, you do if you, but you can pay for it to have its own separate cell service, which some people do.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
I don't. I just have it where it's got to be near my phone. I think 100 feet.
You still liking your Apple Watch? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got it on today?
Yeah.
What do you like most about it?
I like the fact that I can look at messages without having to grab my phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It'll buzz me and it'll say, I can look at something and say,
yeah,
that's important. That's not important.
Right.
Do you ever send messages through your watch or do you do that through the phone, Biggs?
Mostly I will, but it has I like it too because there's really good voice to text, which is mostly how, so if somebody sends me a message, I'll just hit it and say, yes, I'm on my way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I see that a lot.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. My pickle pals will sometimes, even between the points, hold up a finger and go like, "Can't do it right now. I'm pickling."
Period. Send.
Yeah. Yeah, they do that a lot too.
Yeah.
Period. Send. Laughing face emoji. Pickle. Big sliced emoji.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
West Coast Bob is a talk to text guy.
You can
you
can tell that a lot.
Question mark. Blah blah blah. Send.
Yeah, I never have done that.
No, I've never done it. I don't know if it's because I'm just set in my ways and I type full sentences, which is aggressive.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. And
I don't do it on the phone. I can never do that. I'll only do it on the watch, and only if it's real short. Stuff, on my way.
And we do know, and Biggie, you don't even know you do it, but when we're having conversations, you will glance at your wrist 2 or 3 times during a conversation.
Because you're getting buzzed.
It's 100%. Yeah, it's 100% just reactionary.
Is it rude?
I'm sure it is.
Some say yes.
But I think if you look around, you see it
all the time. I do. A lot of the times I'll see it and I think, I'm here, I'm present,
Yes.
Make some eye contact.
It's rare.
Make some eye
Enjoy this. I am present now.
Make some eye contact with me,